Okay, well, of course it starts recording when I fling my head. Anyways, hi, everybody. Welcome
Hello.
to As the Pages Turn. We have a lovely, wonderful editor. By the way, not just an editor. KT is a three-prong threat. She's an editor, voice actor, and author. So, we actually kind of have a 3-for-1 deal, but we're forcing her to focus on the editing part.
Yeah, we're going to drag her back here for the other stuff, but just don't tell her, okay?
Sooner or later.
I'll save it all.
It's on a list. Okay, good. So, first of all, I want to state that Crystal was pretending to have a milkshake.
I did not.
And wanted milkshakes, but then we found out the milkshake was a lie. So
it was actually tea.
Thought it was a milkshake. They assumed it was a milkshake.
It was a lie. The milkshake was a lie. So now she owes me chocolate and a milkshake. This is going on a list, my people. I'm making a list. With you. I'm gonna start making a list. Crystal, and this is besides. So we interviewed Carlos yesterday. He now owes me a Scottish version of Genie in a Bottle, and I told him he agreed to it. So, and he's saying it was all lies or something, but I ignored him. So I already wrote that down too. I have a little handy chat here. So whatever we make up for you to owe us, I'll write it here in the chat so you'll see it.
Okay.
Just so you know, I mean, not that we would do that.
We definitely wouldn't do that. Definitely, we are so trustworthy with things.
We are so professional here, like, oh my god. Anyways.
Very professional.
So we are here with the lovely KT Wishert, who is an editor, like I said, a voice actor and an author, and does awesome at all of those. So she actually also might be an alien. It's not confirmed.
Well, she touches everything in our particular region of business. So, KT, are you an alien? Come on, you can be honest with us.
She's good at everything.
We're not going to talk about that because we can't be outed. I might get in trouble if I get outed.
Okay.
I don't want you to get summoned back to the home planet. I understand. I feel bad. That's a problem. So anyway. Okay, so we're just going to go back and forth with the questions. We don't have a ton of questions because I totally admit we are not editors. We don't know what, but we have some good guesses, and then we ramble. So I'm sure we'll have enough to talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Yeah, but a lot of KT's business involves when we finish a book, it then becomes the editor's problem.
Yes.
The major cleanups, all the weird maybe things we need to rewrite and find that we need to rewrite it. All the spelling errors, continuity errors, whether or not the scene makes sense.
Yes.
The person who gets us to accept the fact that this scene has to go, it's crazy as fuck. All of that.
Look.
Or a person who says, listen, I don't care if you're tired. You better add 4 more chapters so your book is good.
Right.
This is KT's business. It's what she does.
So, which leads to our first question, which is, how did you get into the editing part of your awesomeness?
Yeah, editing was actually one of the first steps. So, I was in school for engineering, which I think I've told y'all a little bit about in the past. But when I was in school, kind of figuring out that that's not what I wanted to do, I knew that I wanted to publish. But I also knew that publishing, particularly in the indie realm, when we're doing it ourselves, comes with a hefty price tag sometimes, depending on how you go about doing it. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I don't have any money, but I do have experience. So instead of jumping straight into the deep end in publishing, let me get into the indie realm as an editor, because I had experience for many, many years doing literary criticism. I did competitive literary criticism where we would actually...
There's competitive literary criticism?
I did not know that was a thing.
I've never heard of that.
Because I had no idea that
Please
was a
explain.
thing.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I'll explain that one. That one is a weird one, oddly specific.
Very specific.
But basically we would be given it was an American classic novel usually, and then a poet's complete works. So like one year it was Robert Frost's complete works.
I love Robert Frost.
I love Robert too.
Right?
And then, we would get a oh brain, come on, a play. And we would have to read all of these pieces, and then we would also study a lot of study general English, so literary principles, different things that are used in theater versus in novel, versus all of the different genres of novels. We would study the history of who won a Pulitzer and for what title did they win a Pulitzer, and stuff like that. And then we would go in and we would take an exam over the 3 things that we had to read: the novel, the play, and the complete works. And part of the exam was multiple choice, asking us the questions about like who won the Pulitzer in 92 and for what title, and stuff like that. And then the second half of the exam was all written and was generally a question about one of the poems of the complete works, and then another question about generally the novel. And so that's what I did. I did that for several years. And then I went off to college for a STEM degree and realized that I wanted nothing to do with it and wanted to pivot my entire life.
Like we usually do, yes.
Now you're stuck here with us.
Yes, and so now I came here. Now I'm here.
Yes. Well, now you're never allowed to leave. So
I know I've been put that by a few people. I think I've been grappled in. I'm in everybody's clutches. I'm never leaving.
Yes.
Yeah, we're
not that you're trapped.
Know how to let go.
Right. And not that you're trapped in any basements, person. Anyways, let's move on. I've been told that if I say this too much, charges might be anyways.
So, of course. Like, she is not in a fancy basement.
There's no narrator basement or editor basement.
Milkshakes and stuffies.
I promise. Anyway, so.
Okay. Oh, wait, wrong question. Okay, what are the different types of editors? Because we have a lot of trouble explaining that to people. We figured as somebody in the field, you could probably explain it a lot better.
Yeah, not a problem. And I've posted videos about this one before, doing my best to kind of break it down, because it confuses a lot of people. And I think it's completely reasonable, because when you look at literature, there's some overlap, there's some areas where it's kind of hard to draw the line of what really does this fall under. But there's developmental editing or content editing. You'll see people kind of say it in different ways. They're the same exact thing. But a developmental or content editor, we look at the big picture. We're looking at your plot, your arcs, your individual character arcs. We're looking at the chapters, how the chapters fit together. We're looking at all of it all at once. Big whole thing. Is the book working? Does this character work? Does this character serve a purpose? Does this chapter have any meaning? Is the pacing here going to drag so much that you might lose readership? That's what we're kind of looking at. And that's generally where you're going to have bigger rewrites or bigger adjustments, because you might be asked to remove chapters of your work. You might be asked to add chapters of your work. And so that's where you're going to have the most possible work probably come in, is if you send it off to your developmental or content editor. After you do developmental and content edits and go and make those suggested changes, then you would send it to your line editor. Now, all of these people can be the same people, or they can be different. But then you would send it to your line editor, and your line editor is looking at your prose. Your line editor is looking at, and the best way that I can describe it is it pretty? I like that.
I like that.
Is it pretty and perfect? Yes.
And so instead of looking at your character as a whole, or looking at the plot as a whole, now we're looking at is your dialogue witty the way that you say you want your dialogue to be? Because when I talked to you at the beginning, when you handed me your manuscript, you said that you were striving for witty dialogue. Okay, now we're going to look and see if you're landing in that aspect. Did you do what you wanted to do, what you're striving to do? Are you using really beautiful, elegant prose that's leaning a little bit towards what we call purple prose, where it's a little too much?
Too much. Okay, so purple prose is like too over the top of like her lips are gleaming like frostbitten, blah blah blah. Yeah,
basically, yeah. the bigger vocabulary. It's a little bit token-esque, where we're sitting and kind of spending a whole page looking at one thing. That's leaning towards purple prose. Yeah. But basically, we're making.
I was gonna say Anne Rice in her like describing a porch for 10 pages.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and
or like exactly certain other authors and talking about picking a song on an MP3 player. Ooh.
Oh my goodness.
I complain about that book too much, and yes, I'm still complaining about The Mister by E.L. James. Anyway, I complain about that book too much. You were saying, K.T.
You're good. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I completely understand, and that's the complaints that you guys have is completely they're valid, and it's one of those things of we want to make sure that as a line editor, line editing has the biggest possibility, and I say this for everybody listening, watching, etc. Line editing has the biggest possibility that if you get the wrong editor, if you get the wrong person to work with, some people, some editors don't have an issue with changing your work. Oof. And that's not how that works, right? As a line editor, line editing is my bread and butter. Line editing is my favorite. I do all of them, but line editing, if I could just do that one thing, that would be my favorite one. Line editing is so much more. It is not about me making you sound like me. That's not the point. It's listening to your desires, what you want to come across on your pages, and telling you if it's working or if it's not. Is that coming across in your page? Is your character coming across as witty because you said that you wanted them to be witty? Or does this character come across as shy because you wanted them to be shy? And if they're not, can we look at the dialogue? Can we look at the way that you word things? Can we look at your vocabulary to come up with a better way to describe something? Choose this word over that word. And it's very specific, but it's not about changing your writing. It's never about changing your writing or your voice. So I say that very, very, very blatantly because I never want somebody to go into line editing and accept when their editor is changing who they are. That's not the point in editor.
Yeah, I actually had an editor do that to me once before I had author, editor, and all the other writing people friends.
Yeah.
And when that happened, that really, really aggravated me. So as you can guess, that person is no longer my editor.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember very early when I was a baby author that happening, and I was like, wait, what the heck? I paid them all this money and they did this?
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta find the right editor. I think that's that's a very good point there.
Yeah, this was back when I was a baby editor with no fellow editors to guide me. Well, baby author, right? I can't edit this. Yeah, back when I was a baby author.
Yeah, and it's a big thing. I call it shopping. You literally have to shop for an editor. So seeing their opinions on how prose should look and work and making sure that their opinions on what English should be doing is the best way to see if you are going to mesh with each other. And then personally, I'm the kind of person that asks questions as well, instead of like, I ask questions like, what do you want this sentence to portray? What are we like? trying to get a little bit more into your mindset specifically so that I'm never imposing my mindset onto you. That's not how that's supposed to go. So I try to be more questions centered and make sure that we're having an open dialogue and kind of almost brainstorming together on how can this adjustment be made to better match what your goals are with this.
Yeah.
But
it's funny.
Oh, you're good.
No, it's okay. I think I'm lagging like a tiny bit because I'm like, I see you start. I was like, oh, she's fit. And then anyways, but ignore that. So you were finishing.
I was just saying line editing is one of the ones I can talk about forever because that's my favorite. I love it so much.
Yeah. No, I was saying we had an author in one of the groups I'm in who was telling us how she was looking for an editor. And so she had posted, and I guess she was on Reddit. So she like got very upset. And they came to the group to like talk about it because she had told them about this interesting idea she had for a prologue. And or I don't know if it was a prologue or a first chapter or something, like her idea for something. And the person was like, cussing her out, telling her that she should never do that. It's not like literally cussing her out. And like all of us were like ready to like arm up and find them because we're like, what are you, first of all, nobody should ever be cussing at you, but also like you having an idea for your book, that should not be something that anybody comes at you like making a scene about.
No. I feel like that person was projecting on your friend about something because my goodness.
Yeah. Because that's definitely one of those where so part of my job as an editor, particularly going to a developmental or content editor, part of my job, and I tell everybody this too when we get started, is I'm going to tell you 2 answers to every question you ask me. And one answer is going to be what a traditionally published expectation would be. What do they think is good versus bad? And then my other answer is going to be my personal opinion as an editor, author, writer, reader. And generally my answers are going to be different. Those 2 are usually not going to be the same thing. And definitely would never tell somebody that they shouldn't do something that they have an idea for, particularly in the indie space. My favorite thing, and some people get really frustrated with this one, is that, I'll give them my inclination is a yes or my inclination is a no, but I will never know until I see it done. So if you don't write it, if you don't show me the finished product, the finished, ready for editing finished product, I can't tell you yes or no. I think that's going to land or not land. I don't know. It's all about how you go about doing it. So that's a big part of it. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Right. Okay, so now we know all the editing stuff.
Actually, there's one last.
I was wondering. I was like, is there a third one? Okay, go on.
There's one last one. This one is the nitty gritty. This is the kind of no fun humdrum one.
Oh no!
And the people that are good at it are really, really good at it. And
is this the spell check one? Is this where you spell check our asses with grammar?
It's spell check, grammar. Yeah. So we're getting into copy editing. Copy editing is going through and making sure that your English is Englishing. And and basically we follow a style guide. So me personally, I follow the Chicago Manual of Style. That is just a really big book that tells you the way that you were supposed to use commas, the way that you were supposed to use hyphens and dashes and stuff like that. And so it's just the real nitty gritty. It's not changing words. It's mostly punctuation and spelling. Yeah.
Okay, so copy editors, I'm going to say I love you, but you people keep coming for my grammar and look. No, anyways.
I appreciate that copy editors handle that because that is my least favorite thing to do.
Right. I can do all for my stuff. I find that I could do most everything else, like the content and the like line. But when it comes to the copy, that's the part that I'm like, okay, I need some tag somebody else in, because I am not the grammar person. I can spell check myself.
Need professional
I cannot
help.
grammar check.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And as an editor who does all three, one of the things is for copy editing, I would say an intermediate content developmental editor and line editor. I've been doing it long enough. Okay. I have enough experience. My copy editing, I am still a baby copy editor, because there is so much that goes into grammar, and it's
Grammar's annoying. Can we just say that? Grammar. Let me tell you, grammar for an author, it's like we're in an ongoing battle all the time with each other.
Always.
You want to talk about an arch nemesis for authors is fucking grammar. Let me tell you.
It is grammar, because we'll write all this stuff, and then it's like, run-on sentence. You need to fix your run-on sentences.
Right?
You fix that. Like, how do I rephrase this? What do you need? I need this thing called a comma. What's a semicolon?
Yeah.
Semicolons, by the way, should be extinct anyways. Moving on.
Are the worst.
Look, semicolons piss me off. I don't know why, but they do. It's because it's a period and a comma. Like, who had that bright idea to be like, let me confuse everybody and put a period on top of a comma?
Yeah, and make it confusing about where you put it. Like, what?
Right? Right. Yeah. I'm just saying semicolons might be evil. So anyways, next question before anybody leaves hate comments below. So give us an example.
Semicolons need to go away.
Stupid semicolons anyways. So give us an example of the top 4 things that you find while editing other people's stuff. So like the biggest 4 faux pas or fun things. You can be fun or faux pas.
Okay. That's a fun one. Okay. Yeah. So again, because line editing is my bread and butter, one of the first things that I think of is, okay, wait, no, I'm going to give you a copy editing one first, because this one's a really easy fix that most people don't think of.
Okay, I'm going to write this down because I might be doing this. Let me just
write that down, and I'll ask you about it later because I know I might forget.
I'll give it to you.
No problem. I'm even opening up my thing so I can talk about it. But here, it's over here. So when you have, okay. So think of it as you have a sentence and you're talking about the main male character, and your main male character has dark hair. He has black hair. Yeah. So you're talking about your main male character, and you say he has raven colored hair.
Yeah.
Raven colored hair.
Yeah. Raven
colored is now one word. It needs to be hyphenated.
Okay.
And okay. So this is when, here, I'm terrible at describing something without having it like in writing in front of me. They're called compound adjectives, and it's when you put them in front of a noun. When it's in front of a noun, you're describing something. You're using 2 words to describe something. They need to be hyphenated because they're now compound. So that's one of the big ones that I catch the most. And so this was invented to upset authors. I'm assuming this is another, like the semicolon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the semicolon. Actually, no, I'm going to say this. This is not as aggravating as a semicolon. I am still not best, but I'm getting better at noticing when I need to put a hyphen between 2 words because they become word. I'm getting better at that. I'm not 100%.
I'm not there. I'm not good at it.
Where near as aggravating as the semicolon, because the hyphenated words I can figure out, but the semicolon I don't know what the hell that is for.
I can barely think raven. So raven colored hair to me. Why would raven colored need to be? It's 2 words. 2 words.
Well, they become one word.
And then again, this is coming in with a if you're using a style manual, other style manuals might not recommend hyphenating.
Oh, okay.
So it's really odd. You have to pick a style manual and like stick with it, because the biggest thing is consistency.
Okay,
So
I get where you're coming from with that.
It's kind of like if you tell me as an author that you despise the Oxford comma, I might lose my mind. But as long as we keep it consistent through the entire manuscript, I will adhere to your wishes. We do not have to use
commas, though.
And so
I love commas, though.
I love the Oxford.
The comma's great,
I
but the
feel
freaking
like the
semicolon
drama is coming through. But I get it. The semicolon. You see how scarred we are by semicolons? We keep talking about them.
Yes.
Semicolons make everybody mad. You are not alone.
Especially
why
when
was
word
it invented?
You have to add one. And you're like, are you sure? Should I just add a period?
Yes. Yep. I feel like it was some stuffy British guy who was like, you know what? That comma seems alone. Let me put a period on top of it, and then we're just going to put it in the weirdest fucking places, because that's how that should go. And then, because there's times that I've had teachers, because I was an English major for 2 years, randomly English major, whatever. So, like, I would have one teacher put a semicolon somewhere, but then I would have a different teacher who I wouldn't have a semicolon kind of in the same spot, and they were fine with it. And I was like, one of y'all needs to figure it out. Like, why am I having to figure out where this thing goes?
I don't know. I didn't get a basic understanding of grammar till I started writing books.
Yeah. That happens for a lot of our indie and self-published authors as well, is that we kind of start figuring out grammar. Of course, I feel like everybody that is interested in writing a book has good English skills, but they're more innate. They're more natural English skills. So now we have to get into the nitty gritty, and we have to like learn these stupid things that nobody wants to do. And that's
the key word there. Stupid. Stupid is the key word. I'm just putting it out there.
Because when I started writing, I had to break up with the style I used when I was writing college essays. Because, you know, that doesn't work for a manuscript when you're reading. It would throw somebody off. But at the same time, I need to remember all the grammar goes here. And even though I have to add it, make it sound like a person talking, at the same time, I have to have this grammar that's structured.
Yeah.
The only good thing about a zombie apocalypse is I won't have to worry about grammar. It will not be a problem, because
bye-bye.
Well, who will have time to write
grammar? I'm just gonna have a little cheer. No more semicolon. Anyways, so next question.
Okay. Next up is, what pet peeves do you have while editing? Is it the semicolon?
And by the way, KT has not edited my work yet, so these pet peeves aren't about me. I'm just putting that out there. But look, I have made somebody who edited my work cry, and I still owe that person brownies. Yes, Christy, I know. I owe you brownies. Trust me, I know.
Anyways, never mind. I'll find that out later.
I think my pet peeve, and this is not everyone, and this is not... I feel like it's not a bad thing, because it's about getting assistance. It's about getting help. That's why you're hiring me. And I just see it, and my brain kind of goes, ha! and it's anytime I catch a paragraph or a sentence and you use the same word multiple times.
And I can see that.
Yep.
And my brain, and that's coming from line editing style, is just now my brain immediately goes, no,
right.
We're not doing that.
You're like, enough. Well, enough of this word. You can only use it so many times, especially, and I'm not. And what's funny is, like, if you're not an author, so you can imagine, like, you think, oh, I'll catch it if I use a word 10 million times. But I'm telling you, I've had it where I forget which word it is, because Silas was the one who pointed it out to me. But it was just, actually. I think it was the word just. I had used this word like 600 times in like a couple of paragraphs. And I hadn't even noticed. And usually when I edit my shit, like I go through and I'll like word check and word find stuff to double check.
Yeah.
And I literally had missed the fact that I used just like 6 million times.
Yeah.
And Silas was like, this can't, no.
See, I think what's interesting about that though is that means that that's probably a crutch word for you. And I feel every author has crutch words, and those don't bother me. It's always like really random words that just happened to be repeated a couple of times in the span of like a page.
Yeah.
And that's
in my
when
case, it's more than a page. Because I think that first book, my crutch word was the word and. And I know I always will remember that was my crutch word, because my mother does my content editing before I send it to the more professional editor. She's the first editor.
Yeah.
And in my first manuscript, she got so mad at the amount of times I used the word and. She's like, oh, and.
I love your mom, man. We're gonna have to interview your mom one of these times too, and just get her on here. Like,
that's not happening. But here's a hint to everybody in the audience: all the authors love my mom. They really just adore my mom.
Yes, she's great. Excuse me. So, this question I thought up like 10 minutes before the interview. Okay. So there's 2 of them I thought up because I was like, I need more questions. So do you ever get editor blockage? Because I know authors, we talk about having writer's block and like not being able to like I'm on one right now where I know what I'm supposed to write, but I literally cannot get the words on the page. Yeah. And I was like, I wonder if editors ever get this. So I was like, I'm going to ask KT.
So I do, but it's a little bit different. So one of the things that we do is we write an editor's letter. And this is pretty specific to, generally most of the time you will see an editor's letter for a developmental or content editor. And that's where we kind of really delve into literary principles. We delve into your strong points, we delve into the weak points, and we really try to break down why we are saying what we are saying. Okay. Because why would you, I feel like there's a big part, particularly for me, I don't expect blind faith from you guys. If you hire me, I want to make sure that when I tell you something, I explain why. There's no point in me just telling you, well, I don't like this, and then not saying anything. This is not quite working because of this literary principle. And if we analyze this principle in juxtaposition to what you have here, this is what's going on. And so it's a full breakdown, right? But sometimes I will be sitting at my editor's letter after reading a chapter for an author, and I'm like, I know what I need to write, but I don't know how to describe this thing. Yeah. And so you can ask, I think Nisi is probably the best one to ask about that. Yeah. But
I'll put that down because we're interviewing her later.
On our show.
Okay, cool. Yes, so you can ask them. I come up with my own names for literary principles sometimes. And it's because sometimes it just makes more sense for me to describe it in the way that I describe it. Yeah. And it's blame it on the neurodivergence. My brain just sometimes prefers the way that I can describe it over the way that a textbook might describe it. But I think Nisi has probably gotten the brunt of that one, where I've been like, I'm throwing all traditional names out the window, and you are getting my weird hodgepodge name of what I think this is.
So now your homework from this interview is I need to see you do a TikTok video of editor's block, because I think, first of all, that'll get a ton of people to watch.
You can't get
because I don't think anybody's actually thought about it.
Giving you homework.
Yeah, I like giving people homework, and this is how this is going to go. If you're going to get interviewed, you're going to get homework. Yes, because I want to see this. Blah. Anyways, but see, it's not as bad as the Scottish Christina Aguilera. See,
No,
so it's nicer.
I'll take that as a win.
This is gonna be how did I get gypped here? Anyways, wow.
Okay, what's our next question?
That's right.
What are some things we as the authors can do before we give you, our dear editor friend, our work?
Yes.
Yeah. So one of my biggest recommendations is that if you have the time, set it aside for a week. Finish the draft and like where it's finished and you're looking at it and you go, yeah, that's ready. And then set it aside for a week and come back.
Okay.
And I don't recommend at this point making major overhaul edits, meaning I don't want you to cut chapters and rewrite them. I don't want you to add a whole nother plot line, but I want you to go through and look at your prose and look at how you're saying things. Does the personality of each of my characters come across? Does each of my characters, do they each have a distinct personality? If you have two different POVs, does it read as two different POVs?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Get a little bit more into the line work. And sometimes, even if you're sending this off to a dev editor, the reason that I bring this up is because sometimes line work can point out bigger problems. So if you're reading it and you're going, actually, I feel like I have 3 of the same exact character.
Yeah.
That is that's a developmental edit. And you found it by looking at your line.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the big ones that I recommend is write it until you feel like you are ready to send it to me tomorrow. And then set it aside for a week, maybe 2 weeks if you're really stressed out and it's been a whole thing and you wrote it all in 5 days. Like set it aside.
That'd be amazing if you could.
Yeah, right. And so just take a break and then come back to it and look at it with fresh eyes and see what kind of opinions you have after it. And again, do not make big overhaul edits. But I would love to know when you send it to me 2 weeks later, what you thought of your second read of it. How did you feel about it? Was there a problem that you feel exists?
Yeah.
And I can look at it and tell you if I actually think that is a problem. Was there something that you're not really certain if that's a bad thing and you would like an opinion? Stuff like that. I would love to know what you thought after a break.
Yeah, I agree. Because in my case, my break is always, unless I rush a book, which I told myself never do again.
Yeah.
But I always take a month-long break away from my manuscript after I finish it, because after I take that month off, as soon as I look at it, like last time I did that, I found a whole section where I needed to add plot line. Otherwise, what I was talking about made absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
And it's like there's times you'll catch stuff after, like you're in the heat of it and you're going through it, and then it's like you step away for a few minutes and then go back and you're like, how did I miss this, this, and this?
Yep.
Or
one time I found a paragraph I thought I deleted.
What are you doing here?
I've had that.
Yeah.
You're like, didn't I get rid of you? Weren't you? I could have sworn.
It was even highlighted in red. I had highlighted the entire paragraph in red so I would remember to delete it.
And
I had read, and I even read through the manuscript a couple more times before I put it away for a month. Then I came back and I'm like, what the hell is this doing here? I love paragraph. I missed it.
You get blinded. You're just so used to seeing it, you just don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we have and I know where we're at. Okay, anyways, I'm totally on track. I know what I'm doing. We're professionals here.
Very professional.
Look, I'm like, so I had coffee today. It was very helpful for the rage. Anyways, so I was gonna do a brief, like, we'll get back to another editor question, but
okay.
So you are an author and a voice actor and an editor. So how do you find time, and where do we get the time travel device that you're clearly using to be able to do all of this? Is that actual question? Because I know you're doing some Hermione shit over there, and I don't know how, but you are.
Don't tell everybody my secret, Mia.
Look, I'm just saying, there's no way you're doing author, voice actor, and editing, and doing awesome at them, and having a life, and with the hubby, and that. No, there's no way. There's no way.
Obviously, it's part of my alien powers, but we're not going to talk about it.
Oh, and let's not, Mia, you forgot one thing. We also forgot that she had time, amazingly, to throw a major TikTok event.
Oh yeah,
I know. Like, so by the way, we've been talking, because by the way, KT, we've been talking about this event for like fucking our last 3 episodes.
Oh,
especially in the AM. No, we had, if you haven't seen KT, and by the way, if you haven't seen our lovely YouTube videos, you should go watch those. But anyways,
four videos on a million lives.
We've done like
it is.
We've done 3 or 4 videos on that chick. We give no fucks for her. We have voted her off the island head first. But so we've been talking about, though, how you are putting on this event to kind of help make up for some of that fuckery. And then I mentioned, I think I was telling people yesterday, I'm going to be there all weekend slaving away to help. So I was like, KT, take a minute. Tell us about this event. Tell everybody, because we've been talking about it. So go for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So basically, it has blown up to much bigger than I expected it to. Really,
I've been trying to blow it up a lot. So
everybody's been really helpful at promoting this event. And basically, we all came home after A Million Lives, and everybody started to make their videos explaining their experiences. And I had seen, I would say, probably about 50% of what was going on. I saw it happening. But then there was another 50% of information that I was finding from the people as they were posting their videos. And so that was a big thing that, we already knew that it was messed up, but then we had the opportunity to all compare notes. Oh, it was like, wow.
This chick, by the way, how the chick did not think that Book Talk was going to compare notes? Motherfucker, we're Book Talk. We talk.
Woman isn't smart. I mean, it's interesting. Once y'all started comparing notes and making videos, because when me and I made the first 2 videos.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's when we made the first video. I take that back. When we made the first video, we thought we had pretty much covered every little thing. Then the video, now, because y'all started talking to each other. And then it was like all this extra stuff. And it was like, what the heck? And then we thought, okay, then even more stuff came out because of everybody talking. I was like, my goodness, this person did the most disastrous thing I ever heard of for an event. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
I even told people about it. They stared at me like, what the hell? Are you crazy?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and then we found out about the cosplayer event that she actually fucked up too, but nobody knew about it because the cosplayers, the poor cosplayers, are so used to getting effed over that they were just kind of were like, oh, this happens, and moved on. The poor babies. Like, yes.
Yeah, it's been a mess. And we all, we made a group chat. We started comparing notes. Yeah. We started talking about it. Everybody started sharing their videos. And
those videos were wild.
It was wild. And I immediately was like, I don't have much to offer. I don't have much money to my name. I don't have a lot. I can offer my time and I can offer my experience.
Yeah.
And I was back in college, where college was a wild time for me. But when I was in college, I was president of an organization, and I hosted, organized multiple events for them, including live events through actually Zoom because I was in college when the pandemic hit. So I transferred us from a in-person event to a live event format.
Nice.
And so I was like, okay, all I have to offer is my minuscule experience and my time, because I can't afford to, you know, go buy everybody's book and then give everybody money and help them recuperate all of this. So I immediately was like, hey, do you guys want to do a live event where I would host and we would have, I can do a call upon all of my narrator friends and see who's available. And if you don't have an audiobook, we can do narrated snippets. If you have an audio, we can do interviews. I asked the bookish business, like, hey, do you want to come on and just talk about your business? And I purchased, or some of them donated. I purchased some of them, but we got all of the stuff together for giveaways from a lot of the businesses, some of the authors. And people have stepped up and offered stuff for the giveaways as well. And it's just rapidly grown. But basically, it started out as just me trying to help alleviate some of the pain and pressure by just putting together a minor event. And that minor event, thanks to many people like you guys, has grown rapidly.
It's a 3-day event now. It's a 3-day event that KT is hosting with Misha the whole time. And then there's going to be a bunch of us who are going to be chat mods and giveaway mods, and we're all going to help out. And there's going to be narrators, there's going to be authors, there's book businesses. And like I said, and we've said this actually in a lot of our videos, that this is like the only good thing that came of AML is also the power of friendship. But the fact that like KT and all these people want to come together, because we know there was new authors who didn't even want to talk about their experiences, who were so upset by not just the financial hit, because yes, financial hit is bad, especially in this year. But I think the major thing was just a lot of them were traumatized from, like, you think something's going to go a certain way, you kind of get your hopes up, you get there. And not only does it not go that way, but the person like goes out of the, and I'm calling it malicious now, because I've heard now that this is now the second time she's done all this press. So she maliciously did an event terrible to these people. And it's like, some of them are like, I literally heard some of them who were like, we're never going to another event. We don't care, because after this, and it's like, well, of course, like, you understand, but I love that, like, especially KT, I think you deserve a lot of like awesome gratitude, because the thing, your time and your efforts, that is not a small thing. Like, the thing I was raised on is that all you have to give is your time and your effort into whatever. So the fact that you're giving those, you're giving up 3 days to redo all of this, like, especially, we've talked, you guys watch the other videos, we've talked about the fuckery that was like the BIPOC panel and the narrator panel and the LGBTQI panel, which by the way could have been dangerous. With the person who was hosting it. And so for KT and all you guys to redo it and like try to make this a better experience, I think is so awesome. And don't sell yourself short. That is an awesome, wonderful thing you're doing for these people who got fucked by Grace Willows, by the way, who is not allowed back in Book Talk.
Oh,
she can
that's
fuck up.
her last name. Okay. No,
but that's the last name she's known by.
Yeah, it's the last name she's known by. Like, it was wild because it was my very first event. That was my very first event, was to show up to that. And I knew that it was several other people's very first event. And I just felt a need to do something about it. And this was what I could come up with. This is what I could do. And I'm really excited about it. We've done...
We're all excited.
I've pulled a lot together in like 3 weeks. I spend all of
I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the whole event you created.
I'm sure, Mia, you can probably verify that, like, in the last 3 weeks, all I've done is be on my computer.
KT is like doing 5 million things to try to get this event. And like, there's so many, and what I love is that so many people want to help out. And I cannot wait, because I think all these people needed this, especially like you and everybody else who were traumatized. You guys deserve to have this, but also, like, I think this will be a good way to show. And by the way, if the media doesn't talk about this, I will be really fucking upset, and I'm going to write to them because I don't care. I think the media should be talking about, I mean, obviously, other than stuff going on today. But I think the media, because all the times the media wants to talk about, well, Book Talk did this and Book Talk did this and Book Talk did this. Yeah. But you know what? Why don't you talk about the good things that Book Talk does for each other, like this event? Like nobody, it's not like anybody was paid to do this. Everybody is volunteering their time. They're giving up their effort. They're doing whatever they can to help. And this is something Book Talk is trying to do as a whole to kind of like not recoup, but at least help people have a little bit of fun that they should have had at this event by Archer Fantasy Entertainment that deserves to be renowned Book Talk. And I'll make that really clear. Get your ass out of Book Talk and everywhere else. Go to Scammer Talk. Go to Scammer Talk, by the way.
Scammer Talk. Go hang out on Scammer Talk. But really, really quick, the fact that you said events from today and how infuriating it is. I'm going to just do this little blip real quick. We are not going to make this political because this is one of our book episodes. But at the timing of this video, right now in Los Angeles, the National Guard and ICE and these people have been harassing protesters who are against them, basically kidnapping people because there are laws with immigration and stuff, and they're being unfair. That's all I'm going to say about that. If you want to know more, then tune in next week when me and I have a deeper talk about it.
It'll just be rage. Let's be real. But I'm going to focus on something happy. But we have other questions, KT. But I was going to tell you, do you want to hear my conspiracy theory about the swag bags? I have one. And I told everybody, but I don't know if you've heard it.
Maybe right.
I have a conspiracy theory. So we've been talking about, the badges that broke and all this other stuff, right? Yeah. I have a conspiracy theory that the swag bags got stolen by Santa Claus because he didn't have any presents for this year. And so he stole the swag bags so that he could give those as presents to people. So if stuff shows up under your tree that might have been at a certain event, I called it. I was right. Santa Claus stole it. I'm just saying.
A lot of sense,
Yeah, it does.
The most valid explanation for what happened.
Exactly. The most valid. I don't want to say that my excuse is far better than any of her excuses because I put Santa Claus in there. So
Santa Claus is more believable than what she said.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, Crystal. Anyways, I can't with her. Anyway,
next question. I think it's your turn, Mia.
I don't know. We lost count.
I don't even.
Okay, because we asked this one.
We asked that one. I think it's my turn.
Okay.
Excuse the coughing of everything. So we were going to talk about. Okay, so. I did ask that you are not. So it's your turn. It's your turn, Derek, because I asked that you're the time travel. Which, by the way, I want to put on record notice. She didn't answer about how she does all those things. So yes, it is alien technology.
Mia, don't tell. We don't want them taking her back to the main planet. Stop it.
But look, also, if she disappears, she got taken by the alien professor, Area 31, whatever. Yep. Okay, go on.
It's 51, but that's not the point.
31, 50, it's all the same thing. Anyways,
hey, the Independence Day movie taught me a lot about which area to be worried about. Anyway.
Okay. Oh my God.
What would you recommend for those who are interested in becoming an editor?
Okay. Yeah. So for those that are interested in becoming an editor, one of the first things that I would recommend is at least for free, spending some time.
I like free.
Well, I recommend spending some time being a beta reader and attempting to really sit with literary principles and sit with real analysis of prose and try to offer real opinion and help from a beta reading perspective, right?
Yeah.
If you can sit through doing manuscript after manuscript after manuscript after manuscript,
yes,
which is going to be a big determining factor of if you can be in it. If you can confirm that you can do book after book after book and sitting there and not reading it for fun, we're not being funzy. We're reading it to perform a task that you have been hired to do.
Yeah.
And you can do that. Then I would recommend, there are many places and resources to start receiving editor training.
Nice. I didn't even know that.
Yes.
I did not know that either.
So if you go to my website, I have one of them on there. I'm not a member with all of them at the moment because it just gets expensive to hold all of them. So I generally have a up-to-date membership with one, maybe two at a time. But the one that I'm currently with, and I still do watch their seminars because they update those pretty regularly and stuff. It's the Editorial Freelancers Association.
Nice.
You can become a member. I think it's like $100 for the year. And then you take they have courses, and then they have like seminars that they put on where it's maybe like 2 hours worth of a lecture. And they're all really, really good.
Nice. Okay.
And then if that's a little bit too unattainable, because I know classes and stuff can get expensive. Like it's lower than getting a degree, but it's still expensive to pay for these individual classes. Something that's a little bit more attainable is here we are. I have a small stack. But I have a lot of these also. I can try to think
of a small stack as she lists up a whole stack of. Okay, anyways, go on.
We call them craft books, and they're generally either about editing or